All right. Hello, everyone. It's been a while since we've had this conversation. We had conversations on AMN. This is Dr. Akindotu Marino, and I am coming to you from our Akin Marino network today. You all know it's June is men's health month, and so we are emphasizing their mental health. And I should have someone who is joining me today. And so invite your friends and invite all the men around you, the women who love them, and let's have a conversation today about men's mental health. Our title today is pretty intense because these are things that people, men talk about. And we want to make sure that we give them, we're able to uh, give them the allow them to be able to express themselves today. I do have, like I said, I have a man that's going to be joining me on this conversation, but I'm going to start it off today. And then in 2 weeks, we have another one with a panel of men that will be joining this conversation. And so I'm Dr. Akindotu Marino once again, and welcome to the conversation about the title of this conversation. Let me read it out to you. For those of you who are just joining me, like I said, welcome, welcome, welcome. Our title today is, let me put on my glasses, is Emotional Boundaries Without Guilt. A man's right to emotional peace. A man's right to emotional peace. That is our title today. A man's right to emotional peace. So everybody has a right to peace. So the man's right to emotional peace. That is what we're doing today. All right. So, like I said, we should be Dr. Adele, you should be joining me today. Let's see what is going on here. Give me one quick second on this. All right. So many people, when we talk about emotional boundaries, you know what a boundary is. A boundary are the guards that you put up to actually protect yourself. Sometimes it's that you're pulling back, sometimes that you are removing yourself, sometimes is that you're using your voice, sometimes it's that you literally know what you're worth and who you are before you can do a lot of these things, right? So we can't talk about men's health without talking about men's mental health, right? And so if you've been following me on social media, you know that I've been talking about boundaries. If talking about emotional boundaries, a lot of men are praised for providing and for being protectors and listening and solving problems, troubleshooting, for being, enduring, for staying strong. You be the head of the house. The problem is, okay, I think now Dr. Adeli is here, so let me bring him up. Dr. Adeli, welcome. I started without you because I want you to introduce yourself to the audience before we proceed.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, I hope I'm clear and loud enough.
Yes, it looks like there's something playing in your background. If you can reduce that, and then we can hear you. There you go.
Okay, I think it's better now.
Yes, much better.
Yeah, they were trying to call me that the section has started. All right, my name is Dr. Adeoye David Olusegun. I'm in Nigeria. I'm based in Abuja, and I'm into mental health and trauma healing, and I'm also a facility manager. So this has helped me to combine both building and human, looking at their psychology, looking at their entire space together. Thank you.
And today, most importantly, you're also male, and you are, so you're coming from it from professional standpoint and also from a personal standpoint. I
Yeah.
was just saying that men are, men are praised for their provision, for their protection, head of the house,
Mm.
head of the family, for their endurance, for being strong. Um,
Yeah.
and but the challenge is that strength without space becomes exhaustion.
Yeah.
That's important to know.
Yeah.
Strength without space is exhaustion, it's frustration. So men, it's not that men are cold, it's not that men are don't have feelings, it's not about being selfish. What our focus today is that some men are simply emotionally tired. All right, but we
Mm.
don't allow them to do that. We don't allow room for that. So this conversation today is about giving men permission to have emotional peace without feeling guilty for needing that space, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so today, let's just first of all talk about what an emotional boundary is and what it's not. All right, let's start a conversation. So, Dr. Deyo, tell me from your perspective, what is an emotional boundary for men?
Oh, sorry. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Sorry. Okay. So emotional boundaries. These
Go ahead.
are these are healthy limits we set around us. That means a healthy limit we set around our thoughts, around our feelings, around our emotional energy, around our personal well-being. And you see, this help us to distinguish between what belongs to us and what belongs to others. So, in simple term, emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that protect our inner peace, that gives us self-respect and
Mm-hmm.
emotional health, while allowing, us ourselves to relate with others in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what does that look like to a man when we say emotional boundaries? What would that look like to a man, for example? For Because, like you said, emotional boundary are invisible lines, but the
Mm.
but the good thing is that you are the one who's put those boundaries there, not somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually to protect yourself. So what are some examples of boundaries for men? You know,
Okay. So when we talk of examples of boundaries for men, um, it's one of it is saying no without feeling guilty.
yeah.
Emotional boundaries, they are not what we say, they are what we consistently do. Okay. So as a man, we must learn to say no, without feeling guilty. One of the like I will be making examples so much tonight. Like personally growing up to, we're built to not to say no. We are built to always respond, as in respond to things even when it is not convenient. So when we are talking of boundaries now, we're saying a man must be able to say, look, I can't do this at this time. So when somebody said, for instance, somebody came to me sometimes, and okay, like let me make it an example. um there was an issue sometimes back,
Yeah.
and they needed me to contribute some money to some of these family issues going on. And at that time, I really didn't have enough fund at hand. And then this pressure was coming. You are so in the family. You need to take this. You need to take that. And at the point, I had to stand on my feet and I said, for now, I don't have this and I can't do it at this time.
Exactly.
Okay. So I felt no guilt. I wasn't guilty about it. I
Yeah.
stood on my ground, and eventually what they wanted to do was done, even without my input. So if I had gone all the way to borrow money, loan app or loan whatever would have been chasing me up and down. Okay. And then
Absolutely.
it will have been another burden on my own emotional piece. So I learned to say
Absolutely.
no without, without feeling
No,
guilty.
without guilt.
Yes. And then also a man, you know, must refuse to be emotionally manipulated,
Mm. Hold that
especially
thought.
in
Oh,
relationship.
okay. Hold that thought. We're going to come to that. All right.
Okay.
We're going to
Okay.
come to emotional manipulation. Let's first try to just get people to understand what this emotional boundary is. You have
Okay.
given very good examples about what those are for men. And it's the same thing for everyone, but for men specifically, we're focusing on you today because it's Men's Health Month. Now, one of the things that I say when it comes to boundaries is a tripartite tripartite concepts. Number one, there's a limit. You have to have a limit. This is what I can take. This is what I can't take. So there's always a limit. You have to set a limit.
Yeah.
If you don't have a limit, then you'll be like a house without doors, and anybody can come in.
Come in and go out.
Exactly. So you need to have some limits, right? Boundaries are not walls. Walls will make you a prisoner. It will keep people out, but will make you a prisoner.
Yeah.
Boundaries protect you, right? So you have to have a limit. Number two, you have to have consequences. Okay. So if your limit is somebody is yelling at you in the kitchen, or somebody's yelling at you in your house, and you have already told them that yelling is not, you're not going to accept that. Nobody should be yelling at you, right? What what people think is they need to make a request. A request is not a boundary. A request gives other people the power. The request is, please, can you stop yelling at me? That's a request. So what that means that that person can decide either to say yes or no. You understand? That's a request. A request is not a boundary. What a boundary is, I will not allow this to happen. So that's my limit. The consequences is, if it happens, you have to do something about it. So I always say boundaries have legs. So which means you can remove yourself. Okay. You can remove yourself. You can decide to go to another room. You can decide to you need to let them know that there's consequences. Don't gift them your presence. So that's two. The third one is consistency. Consistency. I think you talked about that, David. So the thing about it is consistency. If you're not consistent, there is no power. So it's not something you're going to do once a month. You have to be consistent. Consistency gives you the power. So when a man is saying, I need time, that doesn't mean that they don't care. All right. Sometimes it just means that they're overwhelmed and they need to breathe before, before they respond to you, which is okay. So, but you cannot say, I need time, and then not act like you need time. You understand?
Yeah.
There has to be consistency. So if you need time, then make sure you explain why you need time if you're in a relationship, and then take that time. Take that time and then always come back. So that is, I think, makes a lot of sense when we're talking about healthy boundaries. When we're talking about boundaries, actually, it protects your connection. It doesn't destroy your connection. It protects your connection, right? Because men are taught not to take time for themselves. They are taught to carry burdens without complaining. All right. I mean, even as a boy, you're going to hear, "Oh, don't cry. Be strong. As a teenager, you hear things like "man up,"
Man up,
don't
yeah.
don't be weak, handle it.
Mm,
And so
mm,
over time, this tells men that they cannot speak up. So it creates something called emotional silence, right? And so,
yeah.
which means that the man then becomes safe in silence.
Mm,
There's nowhere for the pain to go but internally,
intern,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And if they choose to do something for themselves, they start feeling guilty about it, or people will start making them feel guilty about it. So there's, they feel guilty for resting. They feel guilty for saying no. They feel guilty
Mm,
for needing quiet. They feel guilty for not responding immediately. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
Where does this guilt come from, though? In your own experience, where is the guilt coming from?
Okay. The guilt of setting emotional boundaries, right?
Correct.
Um, I would say the guilt majorly comes from the fact that from most of us, let me talk from my own side of this part of the world, from our culture, because you know we are like just like you said, we have been trained to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like something that they built in us. It's something we met. It's a system. It's a custom. It's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see you as a man crying, they feel something must be wrong, you know.
What is
and
wrong
then
with
and then
you?
the next thing they will tell you is, what do you now want your wife to do if you are crying? Okay, so we feel guilty because we feel this is the norm, this is the normal thing, this is what should happen. So when we find ourselves in that position, we feel something is actually wrong with us, and that's where the guilt comes
Mm,
from. Yeah.
absolutely. So you feel like it's like, what is wrong with me? Why am I being emotional?
Yeah, yeah.
Why
like
am I
like
being emotional?
emotional. Like I was speaking with a guy. I had a section with a guy, and the guy told me, said, um my father sent me to a school in Ghana. I didn't want to go. It was against my wish. But each time I come back, I knew there was a problem. But I came back telling my father, Dad, I don't want to go. And he tells me, no, 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 I've told you not to complain. Only weaklings complain.
Mm-hmm.
Man up, man up. He ended up there, and then eventually in his growing up, he's in a working class now, but he learned to keep quiet, he learned to shut up. Even when he has something to say, he feels my voice can't be heard, because he had learned to keep quiet, or man up over the time. So this become like a norm. So at a point, he sees himself like, I have a problem. If I complain, there's a problem with me. So it's a system that we just find ourselves into. I tell you another example. Like my son, my firstborn, okay, you know, um, forgets things, like, you know, and not because something was wrong, but because he had a lot of things doing on his desk, a lot of
Yeah, he had a lot of
things
things on his mind.
walking around. Yeah, so the not being organized make him to forget things easily. So one day,
Mm-hmm.
after the mother shouted, what's wrong? Something is wrong with you. Why do you always forget something as important as that? So I saw him in a quiet corner, and so I walked up to him. I said, what's wrong with you? And he said, I feel something is wrong with me. I said, what do you
Mm,
think is wrong? He said, because I tend to forget things that
mm,
matters. I said, nothing is wrong with you. It is just for you to put things in order, set things
mm.
appropriately, and give time to whatever you want to do. And by the time I was through with him, he smiled. He said, yeah, Dad, it's true. It's because I've not been put.
He's
So
so
most,
lucky.
yeah. So most of the times, because we grew up into that system, and so we feel something is wrong with me. But
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with you. You're
But
just
there's nothing
overwhelmed.
wrong. Yeah.
You're just over. It was just overwhelmed. So some men feel guilty for everything, like you said, and you've explained. Sometimes it's cultural expectation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's out of fear of disappointing others, right? Sometimes
Exactly.
it's also because they don't want to be called selfish. They don't want to be
Mm,
called selfish. But let me
mm,
just say this to anybody listening to me right now, to us right now. Emotional peace is not selfish. Just know
at all.
this. Getting your own
Yeah.
emotional peace is not selfish.
Yeah.
It's not a
Mm,
luxury. It is not a luxury. It is a mental health need. So
mm,
find your peace at all costs,
mm,
right? You got to find
mm,
it.
mm,
You cannot not double negative not have your peace. Peace is not selfish. A man
mm,
has the right to rest his mind.
mm,
Um, has a right to protect his emotions, right? And we
mm.
know how we teach the 3 R's, retreat, retreat, rethink, and respond. It's almost as if people think that doesn't count for that. Men shouldn't be doing that. Men should be doing that. There are times when you don't need to say anything just right now.
That's right.
Sometimes you need to pause before responding. Sometimes you need to step away from the conversation. Just let the
Mm,
other person know that you're stepping away. And you
mm,
can't respond. I think this is where, especially women, when it comes to relationship, because you're talking about manipulation,
mm.
we need to talk about relationships. We can't talk about men outside of relationships, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's not that the challenge is not that you're taking the time. The challenge is you're not communicating what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Does this make sense? So
Yeah.
if you're having a conversation with your friend, with your wife, or with your girlfriend or your partner, whatever, and you're having this conversation with them, and then you just turn and you walk away because you want to escape that conversation, that person feels like you have violated something in their own space too. Yeah, that you're not paying
Mm,
attention to them. Da, 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 da.
mm,
So it's always important to have conversations and say, look, I'm going to step away. This is my boundary. When you're yelling, I cannot listen to you. When I'm overwhelmed, I can't think properly. So I will step away. I will come back later, but I'm going to step away now. Does this make sense? You're not making a
mm.
request. You are telling them what you're going to do.
To
Because
do.
a lot of requests don't even work,
Mm,
right? If you
mm.
say, oh, don't yell at me, they might say, okay, but they'll still yell at you, right? So the boundary is, what are you going to do about it? Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
in your own experience, um, when a man wants to protect themselves, why do you think that they feel like they cannot find their own peace? And I know we've talked about culture, but when we're talking about relationships, right? Um,
Mm,
what is going on there? Because I'm going to tell you something. Men who have boundaries love better. Men who
mm,
have boundaries are better in their relationships. Men will
mm,
have space to breathe, are able to show up with more clarity, with more presence, with more patience, right?
mm.
So you should be, if you're in a relationship, you should be encouraging each other to have your boundaries and to find their own,
Boundary.
right?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're very correct. Like you said, if you're in a relationship, one of the things one thing I told my wife is this. I said, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel you need a space, just leave us, travel, take a vacation. The children will be fine. I will be fine. But you will come back a better person. So
Yes.
most time, we don't give ourselves that space. Many men become peacekeeper instead of peaceful men. We just
Mm.
wanted peace to reign. A peaceful man has, this inner stability.
Wait. You said
But
something just now. No,
what we
wait, hold on. Hold on, Doctor Dear, you hold on. let's not gloss over what you just said. I love it. You said some men become peacekeepers instead of peaceful men.
Instead of peaceful men, yes.
I love that so much. Explain the difference.
Okay, so a peaceful man, like I've said, the difference is a peaceful man has this inner stability. You are at peace with yourself. But a peacekeeper constantly manage other people's emotion.
Woo.
Okay, they spend their life trying to avoid conflict. They spend their life trying to prevent arguments. They spend their life trying to stop others from being upset, keeping the relationship together at all costs. These are peacekeeper. And eventually, they become exhausted. It's exhausting. This is what I had been through. So I'm talking practically, because you don't want I don't want them to talk. I don't want this person to feel I am like this. I did. So eventually I was working to just get the best, and yet I'm not getting to the best. So eventually I became exhausted. So
I love that so much.
They are not living in peace. They are managing tension.
Yes.
That's a peacekeeper.
Yes. Okay. So, let's just breathe into that right now. Everybody listening. We're not, your goal is not to be the peacekeeper, is for you to be the peaceful one. Okay? The peace comes from the inside of you. When you find your peace, honestly, you stop trying to fix everybody else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
very well.
Being a peacekeeper can actually exhaust you. You can get exhausted from trying to keep peace, maintaining all of the different sects, all of the different factions. So thank you for sharing that. I love it so much. All right.
You're welcome.
So we know that a man needs the space to show up, right? They need their space to become better husbands, better fathers, better everything.
Yeah.
Now, I'm talking to their partners now. Some women get very anxious when their man wants space. All right. If you are that person that you get very anxious when your man leaves, or when your husband or your boyfriend leaves for some reason or the other, it has nothing to do with your partner. It has a lot to do with you, because it means that you have either have an anxious personality, or you have a low sense of self, and you are using your husband to fill in gaps that nobody else can fill but yourself. All right. And so if you're constantly checking phones, if you're constantly, holding on so tightly, whatever you hold on too tightly to, you eventually lose anyway. Nobody wants to be held like you're holding with such a strong hold. We need to hold ourselves loosely. All right, because we're all human beings. We have our own agencies. You should be suggesting to your spouse, or you should be suggesting to your partner to take some time. You are not the only one that can fulfill their needs. You're not the only one that can meet all of their needs, and you should not be the only one that can meet all of their needs. You can't. All right. A man needs other things. They need their hobby. They need their own alone time. They need other things. They need their own friends, right? And it's important that those things are balanced, and encouraging them to spend a weekend with their friends, to spend an hour here or there, to take a vacation. All of those things are going to get you a spouse that is accessible to you, that is more peaceful, like Dr. Adeoye was saying, that has more clarity, that is more patient, and so you end up enjoying them. Is this making sense? What do you think,
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ade, about what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. You're actually correct. Like most often I tell people, I said, um, when you hold a bed too tightly, you strangle the bed. When you allow the bed to fly, it comes back to you.
Absolutely.
So that means everybody should have their space. Everybody needs space. For instance, what I do, like, let me cite this. Um, I hope I'm safe where I'm talking. Okay, so now, um fast forward to a relationship. It's this kind of anxious. Where are you going to? Where is he now? What is he doing now? And all
Absolutely.
that. And at the point, even in amongst friends, I couldn't function. I couldn't relate well because somebody's just always at my back and all that. But like we are talking about boundaries tonight, at a point, I wasn't living my real self. I
Correct.
was living to just make things go on. And that's where many men find themselves. Our role is to meet need, not to have
Mm,
needs.
mm. That's another
You
good
know,
one. Our role is to meet needs and
to
not to
meet
have
need.
needs. That's a
That
myth.
is,
That's a myth.
yeah,
Very good.
that is what they have set us up to. So we see our own needs as secondary. And then one
Mm,
day I discovered that I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being real. So I go out, I just keep to myself because I don't want this person to be angry, or I don't want this talk to occur, or I don't want to enter into another argument. But one day I
mm,
had to sit her down and I told her, look, I have my values. I want to be happy. I want to be at
mm,
peace with myself. And I had to do
mm.
what makes me to be at peace with myself. And after
Absolutely.
choosing that particular thing, I set my boundary and I got my whole self back. Okay,
Yay, good for
so
you. Good for
so
you. Absolutely.
so
Somebody in the chat said that some men think that uh going out with friends is a woman thing. And that is not true. That is not a truth. That's not true, men. If you're listening
mm,
and you're thinking that going out with men is a woman thing. That
mm,
is, let me see that comment. It's right there. It is not a woman thing. It is a human thing. It is a human thing. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that powerful story, because a lot of
yeah,
men go through that. You
mm,
Without boundaries, love will turn into resentment. It
yeah,
you
yeah,
right you start getting frustrated because you're
mm-hmm,
like a bird in a cage,
mm, mm,
right? You can't use it turns into resentment, and it's like, wait, people think because they're in a relationship, it means that your god-given talents, your god-given everything,
mm,
that one, it dies, and
mm.
you're now, the title is husband wife,
Wise, yeah.
and then you lock yourself into this. A lot of it is not even a God thing. A lot of it is a very cultural thing. You lock yourself into different silos, and you're
Mm,
never able to function properly anymore. So
mm,
there's resentment because I'm not being allowed to be the person I want to be. Silence will turn into anger, you know,
yeah.
and responsibility will turn into burnout.
Mm,
You burn out because
mm,
you can, especially, look, listen, I know women will say this, unless you're married to someone who is independently wealthy, you know a lot of the times, all of it should be worked out between the two couples, right? uh
yeah.
Sometimes financial responsibility becomes overbearingly for the man.
Mm-hmm,
I've heard women will say, his money is our money, but my money is my money.
mm,
you know
mm.
Unless you're married to somebody who's independently wealthy, you can say that. But if it's not, and you're both still struggling, especially for the young ones who are just coming up in this whole
Yeah.
idea that I have to be all in them, being the head of the family means I have to cover everything. And so you're working
Mm.
working 60, 70 hours a week, you're
Yeah.
trying to do all of these things, you're going to burn out, you're going to be resentful, you're going to be angry, especially if when you come home or you're with your partner and you just want to have a breather and you're not allowed to have that, then that becomes a bone of contention, like you just shared, um, Dr. Adeoye.
Yeah.
So today, want to talk about, we want to just say that men need the language for emotional limits, because a lot of
Mm,
times they're not taught how to say what they are feeling without
mm,
sounding angry. All right.
yeah.
Without sounding defensive, without sounding withdrawn, because a lot of the times the men will wait till they are angry to actually say what they want, and or they become very defensive, or they become very controlling, or withdrawn.
Mm,
Right. So we need to talk about the language. What are some of the things you can say in order for you to be able to set the boundaries that you need? Um, I'm thinking things like, for example, you can say something like, if somebody wants to talk about this, and maybe your spouse wants to talk about something, or your partner wants to talk about something right now. I know us women, we want to do it right now, you know. And sometimes you just saying things like, I care about what you're saying, but can you give me some time to think about it? I need some time to think about this right now. All right.
mm,
I am not able to take this on at the moment.
mm,
I want to support you, but I am emotionally drained.
mm.
Does that make sense? I'm emotionally
Yeah.
drained. I things like, do you see how that sounds? It's a boundary, but it's also connecting to the other person.
Mm,
Um, I need a moment before we continue this conversation. I just need a moment. I will come back, but I need a moment. I am not ignoring you. Please, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to, you guys, you can use this term. You say, regulate myself. I want to regulate myself.
regulates. Okay,
Yeah,
doctor, let me make an example of
yeah,
that.
go ahead.
Okay, like I said, when I saw the topic, it was more of practical to me because these are things that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
There was a particular point I was feeling so exhausted, and usually when I'm exhausted, I take a vacation. It's
Mm-hmm.
either I go to another state or I find a camp to just stay 2 3 days. So at this particular point, I was really exhausted, and because of a lot of burdens and a lot of need, I think at that time also I lost my job then that year,
Mm-hmm.
and so much pressure on me. And then this one comes around, so I just packed my bag, put 2 3 clothes, and then I said, I am traveling. So my my wife became so angry, and then she was like, traveling to, though I had hinted her 2 days before, so she thought it was a joke. How can I just go like that when there are needs on ground? So that day, Friday, I said, I'm traveling now. And she said, to where? And blah blah blah. I said, I just needed my space and I needed my rest. So, it was a lot of, shouting that day, like I'm running away from my responsibility and all that and all that. I didn't even make any comment. I just picked up my bag and I went. And then I gave myself for that space for that 3 days. And I came back to continue from where we stopped. I regained the energy to continue, and
Mm-hmm.
without arguing, without anything, I took my space without having to engage in any quarrel with her. And now she learned that when I am overwhelmed, I could easily tell her, look, I need a space, and I communicated that to her too. If you feel overwhelmed, please take your space. It is what you need to do, because if you can't give what you don't have, so if
You
I'm
can't
not
give what you
at,
don't have.
yeah, you can't. If I'm not at rest, I can't give you the rest you needed. If I don't love myself, I can't give you the love I needed, that you needed. So it's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, this whole thing we're talking about, it's like this cup. The full cup is for you.
Mm.
The overflow is for others. So you have to fill your cup with
Yeah.
everything that you need. You fill your cup with kindness. You fill your cup with diligence, with hard work. You fill your cup with patience. You fill your cup with skills and access, and you fill your cup with rest. You fill your cup. You fill your cup. You fill your cup. You're pointing for yourself. When it overflows, that overflow is for everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is we're always trying to get people and take care of people with half empty cups, with a quarter cup, and all kinds of empty things. And so it comes out defensively. It comes out in frustration. It comes out with anger because you don't even have enough. You don't have enough for you. So what you're giving somebody else. And at the end of the day, that sacrifice is going to cost your soul. It's going to make you half the man you're supposed to be. But we're talking about women. I mean, about men today because it also applies to women.
Yeah.
Right. It makes you half the man you're supposed to be. It makes you take very decisions that might not be the best decisions because you're definitely not the best of yourself. Anytime you compromise from the worst of yourself, you're doing just injustice to everyone around you.
That's right.
And compromising from the worst of yourself is not taking care of yourself. When you compromise from the worst of yourself, is everybody else goes ahead of you and you don't matter. You matter, but the way we communicate it is important. You said you talk to your wife.
Yeah.
And now she knows that when you're overwhelmed, you get to go. But not only that you leave, but that you come back. See?
Yeah.
And that's consistent. Then that you come back. These are the kind of conversations, these are the kind of relationships we want. Now, you said something earlier. You said, and I'm going to keep repeating it. Now, stop trying to be a peacekeeper all the time. You yourself need the peace.
Peace.
Right? Boundary says that I hear you, I see you, all of that, but I also need my own peace.
Peace.
Right?
Yeah.
I also need my own peace. As a guy, you need your peace. You're not constantly going to respond, solve, rescue, keep absorbing other people's tension all the time.
Yeah.
As if you're not a human being. Look, I believe this, Dr. Adeyi, I believe this, that access to a man's emotional energy or anybody's emotional energy, but like I said, we're focusing on men. Access to a man's emotional energy is not unlimited. Nobody has an unlimited right to any other person's emotional energy 24/7. Period.
That's right.
Okay? You don't have access to that. Marriage doesn't give you access to that 100%. You don't, because that person, even as a Christian, in the scriptures, even Jesus had to excuse himself several times to just go and replenish, right? And so nobody has unlimited access to any other person's emotional energy. So silence sometimes for men becomes a survival skill. They're not going to go on vacation like you said, but they're just not going to say anything. So when a man is not talking, what does that tell you from your experience?
Well, when a man is not talking, it's a very dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, it's a bottled emotion. I wanted to paint a scenario. It's not because that man is not feeling. You see, very often when man goes silent, it's because they are struggling with emotions they do not know how to express. So when a man goes quiet, he is processing. And they are processing internally before they speak. Though unlike women, that they often process emotion through their conversation. Many
Mm-hmm.
men process emotion through reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he may be asking himself, what exactly am I feeling? Why am I upset? And all that. So,
Mm-hmm.
like after an argument, a wife wants immediate discussion, the husband often go quiet. But
Mm-hmm.
when it becomes when he feels emotionally unsafe too, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if every time he's being criticized, he's being
Mm-hmm.
mocked, he
Absolutely.
feels minimized, his words are used against him later, ah, you feel emotionally unsafe. And I hope I'm not sharing too much. Like when we
No, you're
started
good. That's what we
in my
want. We want you to
yeah,
share.
yeah, when we started in my relationship, then okay, I'm on the, what's it called, I'm an in extrovert. Okay, I like talking, I like making jest. I actually don't take anything so serious in life to hold on to so much, and that has really helped me. But yeah, is my wife was coming from a background that is very strict. Okay, that they don't take anything just lightly. They read meaning to everything, and they don't joke about
Yes.
everything. So at a point, all my jokes were hitting the wrong side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was criticized. I was, a lot of things was happening. So at a point, silence became the order of the day. So I don't even know what I will say at a point again that we not get to the wrong side. So I learned to keep quiet. Silence become safer for me. So many men are not silent because they have no feelings. They are silent because speaking has become costly.
Mm.
Okay,
Feeling has become, what did you just say?
speaking.
Costly.
Many men are not. Many men are silent because speaking has become costly
Mm.
for them. Okay,
Absolutely.
so it's not because they are not feeling it. They have feeling, but if I speak up, this is going to cost me. So a man may be carrying financial stress, work pressure, family expectation, relationship challenge. His emotional system became saturated. He may not have words for it. Okay, so someone may ask, What's wrong?" And he answered nothing. Not because nothing is wrong, but because he doesn't know where to start.
Mm.
And then,
Absolutely.
like I said again, because of our culture, the silent programming is a way of protecting himself. Sometimes silence becomes that boundary, which actually is not actually a good thing, because eventually it leads to emotional numbness. So
Absolutely.
a man may realize that anything I say right now will make things worse. So he chooses not to engage. But like
Mm.
we said, this does not actually save the situation. We really need to talk about it.
Mm.
So most time, when we engage in things, I said I must just talk about it. I can't keep quiet. We need to talk about it. You need to know from my angle. You need to know from my pain. You need to know what get me distressed. I need to talk about it. Don't just tell me to. So people around, then when they come, they say, no, 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 you don't talk as a man. You just keep quiet and be looking. I said, no, no.
Because if you're quiet, that means you've gone inward again, and no,
Inward
that's not
again.
helping anybody.
Okay, so now, because of that, because I love talking about my emotions, at a point my wife said, yeah, I'm living with another wife at home. Now that hits really hard, but I had to sit upright again and tell myself, no, that's the right thing to do. We need to talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because
Yeah.
basically what I'm hearing you saying is that when men shut down, it's because they do not feel safe enough
Enough.
to
Hmm.
speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. There's no
Yeah.
safety in that. It's not because they're not thinking about it. It's
Mm.
okay, let me, this is funny. There was a little boy uh who, he was standing, it was time to eat. It was a little he's a young kid, and his mom kept saying, come on, Mike, sit down. I'm just making up the name. Mike, sit
Yeah.
down. Mike, sit down, whatever. And he was like, no, mommy, I don't want to sit. I don't want to sit. And the mom said, I want you to sit down right now. Right. And so
Mm.
Mike, little 4-year-old or so, went there and sat down. And so mom was happy because now they can eat. And then Mike said, Mom, he said, what? He said, I might be sitting, but inside I am
I'm
standing.
not.
Uh,
Yeah.
it, that's exactly what happens to a lot of people, a lot of men who
Mm.
have to compromise from the worst of themselves. They
Yeah.
are sitting, but inside they are standing.
Standing.
Inside
Silence
they
has
are
become a
doing
refuge.
exactly. They're
Mm.
trying to keep the peace, but it's not working in anybody's favor. Silence
Mm.
or numbness is not what you want from a relationship. Anytime there's silence and they're not talking anymore, that's the worst thing. Well, at least when they're
Yeah.
still arguing, when they're still doing that, you know that there's hope. That means they are invested. They're
Mm.
invested when they're still
Mm.
talking and all of that. When there is
Mm.
no more talking, it means that somebody or both of them have checked out.
Yeah.
And
Emotional
so
withdrawal.
exactly. So
Avoidance.
avoidance, making sure that you start whatever your relationship, wherever it is right now, let them talk to the guy in your life, and let's see what the silence is all about. Now,
Mm.
here is another question that women talk about that I want to bring to the table. We have another panel coming in 2 weeks that we're going to be throwing questions that all of you guys well, there are what happens when a man starts talking sometimes is that they're yelling, they're being dismissive, they're feeling like they're being attacked, so they attack. And so the woman is hearing all of this, and the woman is thinking, well, I don't want that kind of communication. So when we're
Mm.
talking about boundaries, we are not saying, let me just tell you what we're not saying. When we're talking about boundaries, we're not talking about you abusing somebody else's boundary. We're not talking
Mm.
about you emotionally, not emotionally, externalizing whatever it is that's going on with you and dumping it on somebody else. That's not what the
Mm.
boundary is.
Mm.
A boundary keeps you safe. At the same time, it is not to cause somebody else harm.
Mm.
Okay. So you're not throwing stones at somebody. That's not what you're doing. You're
Mm.
literally just saying, hey, we're in a relationship. I can't handle this right now. I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna step back. That's different from you saying, oh, you're always doing this. You're always nagging me. Da, 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 da. That's how you did this 5 years ago. That's how you did this 10
Mm.
years ago. That doesn't help anybody,
Mm.
does it, Dr. Adelie?
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't help anybody. So what we're
Mm.
talking about is very
Because
constructive.
a boundary is not a permission to become harmful. It's a permission to become honest.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I know we don't have much time, but we're going to try to wrap up a little bit. What for the partner in their lives? Maybe ask what happened to this person instead of immediately making accusations. If somebody's a certain way, ask what happened to them. A lot of the times it's not about you, it's not about the person in front of them. A lot of the time, if it's hysterical, it's historical. All right. It's not that the
Mm.
person in your life is evil. Of course, there's some evil person. Of course, there's sociopaths.
No
Of course,
doubt.
there's psychopaths.
Yeah.
But majority of people are literally just trying to live the best life they can, right? There a lot of people are also in survival mode. They're just in survival. That person in your house that you think is not the best and is not this, they're just trying to survive the best way that
Mm.
they can.
They
When we
can.
all start to think that way about other people, that's what trauma informed is all about. Is that we know
Mm.
that every single person, the most common thing in our world is suffering. It's
Mm.
either you've suffered, you're suffering, or you will. It was going to happen to you. It does. You can say I reject that in all you want. If you live in this space, all right, it's going to
Mm.
happen, or it will happen, or it's already happening. And so if you look at it, that everybody is also going through their own stuff, we are able to extend peace to other people. We're able to give them grace to other, and we're able to give them the space that they need to heal.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
person in your house who you think doesn't understand you, that person in your house who is maybe nagging you or doing this or yelling or whatever, as long as it's not abusive, right? As long as your life is not in danger, I am saying that the best way we can bridge this gap for any one of us, male or female, but today we're looking at men, is to understand that he is also going through his own stuff, and
That's
that
right.
everything is not all about you. That there's
Mm.
stuff in his
Mm.
life maybe he's not even been able to articulate. Maybe he hasn't even connected the dots. That what happened. I had one man came to us one time and said, fix my wife. She's always cheating. All
Mm.
right. And
Mm.
of course, the wife said, "This if I go to church and I sit in a pew and a man sits next to me, he says I'm cheating. If I'm talking to my neighbor, he'll say I'm cheating, right?" And the first thing I asked this guy, was I said to him, I said, when was your first experience of rejection? When were you first rejected? When were you first abandoned?
Mm.
At first, he was like, "Oh my God, wait, what?" Yeah. And he traced it back to
Mm.
year 3 years old. He had been abandoned by everybody in his life, his parents, his grandparents. He's been moved from place to place. Everybody he's loved has left.
Mm.
So now, fast forward
Mm.
decades later, he gets married and he thinks this woman is also going to leave him. But instead of telling her
Mm.
his fears, that, hey, this is what I am fearing, this is what is going on, he just starts yelling. He just starts manipulating. He just starts doing all of these things to make sure it keeps her under control so she doesn't leave.
Mm.
But whatever that you compromise from the worst of yourself to keep, you will eventually lose.
That's it.
Okay, you will eventually
Mm.
lose. So the whole point of this, what I'm saying is, we need to consider that that other person is going through their own stuff that has nothing to do with you. A lot of the times, when we start
Mm.
looking at relationships and families this way, we won't be getting so upset constantly. Okay,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we won't be getting so upset, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
about me; it's about you. So go
It's about
take care of
you.
yourself.
Mm. Mm.
So go take care of yourself. That is what trauma informed looks like. There's this whole idea of toxic masculinity that has been around for a while now. You know,
Mm.
that toxic men trying to just rule over women, trying to control them, trying to do all of this stuff. If you fall into that category, that's not love, that's just
Mm.
manipulation, right?
Manipulation. Yeah.
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 And if you're doing that, it has nothing to do with your partner, it has to do with what has happened to you.
To you. Mm.
What has happened to you? What happened to you? What happened to you that needs to be healed? What happened to
Mm.
you that needs to be negotiated, that needs to be triaged, that needs to come out so that we all understand, air the wound so that it can heal.
Mm.
All right. You
Mm.
have you have tried to keep that wound under wraps for so long, but it's not working. It's leaking out. It's smelling. It's stinking. We need to heal that wound so you can be the
Mm.
best husband, so you can be the best father, and not
Mm.
bleeding all over the place. Is this making sense?
Mm. Very well. I think a lot of people, we had encounter with a lot of people, and this is actually the situation most time because they have adverse childhood experiences, and many are not healed. Many are not even informed. I was in a program. They invited me for a women program to come and speak to the women. That's
Mm,
last week. So it was a panel discussion. So one woman came in and was speaking to the elderly ones. So they said, what do you think the elderly women should be doing after their return? When they are old and all that, what can they be doing? And then they said, well, my honest advice is that the older women should become mentors and counselor. Then I cut in. I said, not everybody can be a counselor or a mentor. It's a profession. I said, because what we have today, we have many people that are not healed and that are counseling people, and they are pouring the pain they carry and they are damaging several lives.
Ooh, that is so
I
true.
said, until you are healed, you cannot, because there was a woman that I had a section with. The woman is in a 16 years marriage, and the husband left the home one day, packed the property and left the house. And then when she called me, she said, I needed to speak with someone. I said, okay, what exactly is the issue? So I was able to get that the issue majorly was the fact that she had no child.
Mm.
Okay, so well, we started a lot of section, what happened and all that and all that. Then I was asking the question, and she said to me, she said, I want to be a counselor. I want to be able to bring out the young one. I said, no, not now, until you are healed, until you have
Mm-hmm.
settled yourself. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so many people are carrying wound. Now, I talked about my own story. I said to people most times, I said, if you don't know where someone is coming from, you will be fighting the hardest battle in life. The first thing you need to know is, where is this person coming from? What's the source of what is that, or what she or he is dealing with? So one of the things that helped me also in the setting of boundary and not hurting or harming anyone is because I know where she's coming from. I know the pain she had been through. I know the hurt she had been through. And so most time I tell her, you need to be healed. You need to be healed. Okay, so it's very important. Like you said, we need to know where others are going. We need to be more compassionate about others because they are dealing with things. They are
Mm.
dealing with issues that are silent, they are bleeding from the inside too. All
Wow.
right.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. We could talk forever. This has
Mm,
been such a powerful hour. We just want to conclude this and say, uh, everything, and I hope you have listened to everything Dr. Adeoye has said. He's shared from personal experience. He's shared from his experience as a counselor. He's shared so many nuggets with us today, right? And we're going to close with this: that the man's emotional peace matters.
mm,
Okay, it matters. We are also going to reiterate that it's important to have a trauma informed lens, which means that
mm.
you are aware that people are going through their own stuff. This world is difficult. Okay, a lot of things have happened to people before you came together. There were a lot of things that happened to them, and then
Yeah,
while you're together, other things have also happened to you. So if
happened.
they are
Mm,
acting like, maybe they've withdrawn, maybe they have become the different from the type of person that you knew, I'm just going to say something to men right now. Please take care of your mental health. It's okay for you
mm,
to see a therapist. It's okay for you to work it out. You just become a better person. All right. A woman shouldn't have to um, cope with all of that unprocessed pain. Not just a
mm,
woman, even the
mm.
children, even your friends, even your family. Not everybody should have to cope with all of the unprocessed pains, all
Yeah.
of your shenanigans. Not
Mm,
everybody needs to have to deal with that. No, not everybody has the grace for that, right?
mm,
And so
mm.
it is your responsibility to heal yourself. It's your responsibility to heal yourself, not anybody else's responsibility. Get the help that you need.
Yeah.
If you need to talk to a therapist, talk to a therapist. If you need to talk to a friend, talk to a friend. If you need to heal, men need to heal. That is important. Your nervous system matters. If you have unprocessed traumas and unprocessed pain, you will constantly stay at an activated level,
Yeah.
all right, in your
Mm,
parasympathetic nervous system, constantly on alert,
mm.
constantly, thinking that people are doing something to you. The way you see the world will be jaded. It will be clouded just because you're
Mm.
seeing through your pain and not what
Pain.
is in front of you. So that's
Mm.
important that we heal these pains. The good
Mm.
news about trauma work that we do is this, that trauma is treatable. It's treatable. It is treatable. So treat the trauma and don't pass
Mm.
it on. If you've gone on social media, you've seen all of this images and posts that talk about how you're passing on pain. Somebody needs to decide we're not passing it on to your children. Because here's the truth of the matter.
Mm.
A pain
Yeah.
that is not processed and healed, you are going to pass it on through the
Pastor.
process of epigenetics. You're going to pass it on to your children.
Mm.
They're going to pick that up. They're
Mm.
going to pick that up and they're going to pick
Mm.
that up. And then they will become the men thinking, wait, what happened to me? I don't know. You just got it from your parents, right? So let's stop passing on
Mm.
pain. The same way you can pass on pain is the same way you can pass on healing. Let's start passing
Mm.
on healing. You can pass on healing. A healed nervous system can be passed on. A well-processed nervous system can also be inherited. Do you understand? So we can inherit those things. Let's decide today that is not just, I'm not just going to heal for myself. I'm not just going to heal for my own enjoyment. I'm also going to heal for the
For the
next
future
generation.
one. Mm.
I'm going to heal for the next generation. So your exhaustion your exhaustion deserves compassion. Your silence is telling a story, but you at the end of the day need to decide that I am going to heal myself.
Self. Mm.
Do you have your last words before we go?
Oh yeah. So finally, I want to say that our emotional peace matter. It matters because you are human before you are a provider. You are human before you become a husband. You are human before you become a father. You are human before you become a leader. So you have the right to rest. You have the right to feel. You have the right to say no as a man. You have the right to be heard, and you have the right to establish a healthy boundary without guilt. So protecting your emotional peace is not selfish, it is wisdom. And the goal is not to love people less. The goal is to love them without losing yourself. The goal is not to abandon responsibility. The goal is to carry only the responsibility that belongs to you. And
Mm.
lastly, the goal is not to shut people out. The goal is to let people in without surrendering your dignity, your identity, and your well being. Thank you.
Absolutely. So
Mm.
good. So good. So
Thank you,
good.
man.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
man.
Dr. David Adeoye from
Thank you,
Abuja,
man.
Lagos, for joining me today. Hopefully, you can
Mm.
join the next panel that's coming in 2 weeks too. We'll tell you a little bit more about that if you haven't already heard. And
Okay.
everybody, thank you. Happy Men's Month. Men's mental health is important. And we will see you next time. Stay
Thank
right
you so
there.
much. Yeah. Bye.